Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Just Two Brothers podcast, where we will be sharing our journey so far and some of the simple tactics we've learned that have helped us become great leaders. Welcome back, everybody. Got another episode of the J2B podcast. Coming at you live from our cabin still.
Not live. We're not live.
Well,
We're in our
live.
cabin. We're live.
We're live.
Not for you.
We're live in the cabin. It may not be live now.
Today we're going to talk about office divides.
Office and shop divides, yes. Something I've seen multiple times. I've seen one go away and come back. I've seen one get stronger and stronger. Oh,
Yeah, well, I've seen it in multiple directions, yeah.
I don't know what it is about that wall, but man, does it separate two cultures.
Have you noticed sort of like a cliquey, like high school sort of feel to that kind of stuff? Where people get in their groups and it's...
Work in general, I think, has groups of friends that kind of band together over time. I don't think it is specific to the office or the shop. I think it is in both. But yes, there is, I guess you can call them cliques. Little friend groups. I wouldn't necessarily call them cliques.
Right.
They can be cliquey. And I guess you could probably say offices are more cliquey than the production floor would be. But that's just because the environment isn't so time sensitive in the office as it is on a production floor.
Yeah.
There's just a different urgency on the shop floor that's not there in the office. So people have more time to stand around and bullshit with each other and
chit chat.
Therefore, cliques tend to occur more often in the office than they do in the shop. But yeah, I would say it. Friend groups go both ways.
I would agree. I've seen similar. A lot of it's just seems childish. The disagreements and the divides.
It's drama, yeah. It's always just drama. And I was going to say it's different, but it's not. You have the same types of drama in office and shop. People sleep around on shop floors. People sleep around in offices.
It doesn't happen so much when you got a shop full of guys.
Yeah, that is true. The smaller shops don't
think there's anybody sleeping around in our shop.
The larger companies, there's drama, man.
There's people sleeping around all over the place.
Yeah. People dating and then they break up and like all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that's universal. Drama. Where do shop and office divides come from? Do you have a theory? I have a theory.
What I've seen in the environment that I'm in, we have machining, machine building, electrical controls, and front office, which is mechanical engineering, project management, whatever. Most of the issues that I have seen are issues with builders or controls having issues with a machine with a mechanical design of something and not going to the mechanical design, not going up to the front office and having a discussion with the mechanical engineer about why something is working or to understand what their intentions were. And then it causes all sorts of issues and extra work down the line. And then it all comes back to they wouldn't go and just talk to somebody about it. I don't know if that's like we constantly go back to, if that's an ego thing where you want to solve it without asking somebody
Right.
else for help. The other main one I've seen would be when you're pinched for time or you're not going to make a deadline. It's easy to place the blame on everybody else upstream of you or beforehand and say they didn't get the mechanical design took longer than it was supposed to. We have 20 weeks for a job that took 17 weeks. We only have 3 weeks to build it and assemble it and program it. I mean, it's easy to justify all of that is on the front office people, or everything went well throughout the build of a machine, but the programming didn't go well. So now the whole controls department is to blame for that machine. So there's always this blame game getting thrown around, and who can take the blame, which obviously if there's issues with time management or something else, there could be a common denominator with a department causing issues and you need to address it. But a lot of the time it's just a lack of communication, or somebody's using a different department as a scapegoat, and then it just comes back to
So because people are pointing the finger
yes.
at somebody else,
Yep.
that's causing animosity.
I think so.
Okay.
That's what I've seen and that's what I've heard. And there's
Okay.
always something like there's always blame going around where
Oh yeah.
why something didn't get done and who's at fault for it. And it's easy to just blame it on an entire department because, well, this is what we always see.
Right.
Well, it's not always that way. But that's what I've seen.
Okay, yeah, and that makes sense. I mean, you do that anywhere. Point the finger at somebody else anywhere,
absolutely.
and it's going to cause them to get defensive and cause walls to go up, and so yeah, that's a good point.
I think the reason for that is it's easier to point the blame at somebody that's not right there to defend themselves, as opposed to pointing at it. You don't want to point the blame at people in your team if you're all working together and you're kind of all in the same boat. But sometimes you need to, if there's a problem with your team, don't blame it on somebody else.
Right.
But it's easier to blame it on somebody else than blame it on the people that are all there to defend themselves at that moment. So if the office people aren't on the shop floor, blame it on the office people. And it's just kind of a shitty way of avoiding the actual conflict that needs to be resolved. Maybe.
Do you think that creates a long-lasting relationship issue, or do those usually get solved quickly? Where once the burden is lifted, once the deadline is met or whatever it was, once that's gone, does everybody kind of go, hey, sorry, we a little wound up, said things that we shouldn't have, apologize and move on? Or does it continue to snowball?
I don't know how much actually gets addressed. But I mean, I try to avoid any of those conversations. And as long as the blame doesn't get put on me, I stay out of it. I don't try to blame anybody for anything. And if I'm given a deadline with X amount of time to get whatever done, I exhaust whatever. So I don't hear the conversations other than the in the moment bitching about, well, this is why, because they didn't get this done.
Is it ever brought up of like past times where people have screwed something up or dropped the ball? Or does it seem to just be focused on that moment?
Well, past times get brought up.
Okay. I'm trying to understand if there's, because when I think of office and shop divides, we're all going to have our disagreements.
Absolutely.
It's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of them, I'm I think of this tension you can feel when groups are together. When you bring an office and a shop together, you can feel the tension because everybody is just on such different pages. So do you guys have that feeling? Or does it ever feel like that, or does it seem to be dissipate rather quickly?
I think it dissipates rather
Okay.
quickly at our shop. We don't.
And that is the nice thing about the smaller shops is it doesn't stew. And it
No,
doesn't
and
just continue to build and build and build and build and build. Everybody realizes they have a job to do. They're there to do their job and nothing more.
well, if you
And
have
so you forget about the pettiness.
if you have a disagreement or something with somebody in the small shop, you're going to have to interact with that same person that same day, regardless.
Right.
It's not going to be 6 months down the road before you have to see that person again, and you just still carry that hatred or anger or whatever towards them, or people be pissy at each other. You have to just work through it. So, no, I don't think there's much tension. There's been individual tension. You can tell when individuals cause issues in groups, but departments, I don't think we have that much tension that stays there for long.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't say we do.
And I guess it could more be considered an organization, but it tends to pull the entire office in with it. When I think of an office and shop divide, I believe the root cause is because the office staff kind of forgets where the money is being made. They start to adopt a holier than thou attitude with the shop floor. They're better than them. They're more educated. They make more money. All of this stuff. They're just the piss-ons who run the equipment. But if the people on the shop floor were to walk, that company would make no more money.
100%.
So I think that attitude starts to get in between the shop and the office. And that's where this animosity starts to build between the two. And that does probably come from the larger organizations to where there is more separation with your office and your staff, and or your office and your shop floor, they might not work so closely together as often. And you have more office staff.
Well, I guess going back to when I worked at the stamping factory 12, 13 years ago, I remember, now that you say that, like, yeah, everybody on the floor kind of had their own agreement that everybody from the office was better than them, and they did look down on you.
Yeah.
And you kind of just felt like shit around everybody from the office.
Yep.
You didn't want to talk to any of them because you were not on the same page as them.
That's the level I'm thinking of.
I hear you. Yeah, I don't...
Because those are the tough ones to navigate. When you start to get that level of division going, it's hard to come back from that.
Right.
That's almost a PR issue at that point.
Well, and maybe we do at our shop, but because I've seen... I mean, I started on the floor and I worked all the way through everything, that I just know everybody.
You're
and
blind to it.
I've seen everybody. I'm blind to it,
and it probably doesn't affect you.
No, especially not now, because I've been there so long and I've worked my way up, and now I'm not the one on the floor anymore. But there are...
I'll give you a for instance of one that I know caused tension at my last. The mandatory overtime.
Because nobody in the office has to work any overtime?
Exactly. Production was mandated every other weekend. Every other weekend. You know how often the office was mandated?
Probably hardly ever.
I don't think ever. Engineers were supposed to be like on call. Half the time you couldn't get a hold of them. Our plant manager like never came in. Why would you not do that? Show your team support. I don't care
Right.
if you have shit to do. Guess what? So do they.
Mm-hmm. They don't want to be at work any more than you do.
Right. So when you start to make policies like that, people start to see this level of unfairness,
Mm-hmm.
and that starts to create that divide. Now, I understand their salary. They might not have as much work to do or be able to do some of their work on the weekends.
But are you able to utilize them in other places to take the workload off of other people?
Right. And let's not just make it voluntary. Hey, if you'd like to help us out on no. Fucking mandate them. I don't care if their salary. Mandate them. Pay them overtime. Mandate them. You want to keep this fair for everybody. And guess what? As plant manager, get your fucking ass in there too. Go run the line every other weekend till you get out of that hole. Why aren't you there with them?
Yeah, and I guess I don't know I'd like to hear the justifications or...
They shouldn't have to. And I do understand. But if you're in that bad of a situation,
absolutely,
you should be there with them.
100%. But I'd like to hear the opposing argument just to understand what somebody has to say.
They have people to take care of that. If you can't take care of it, if they need to be there to do that, why do they have you?
Yeah.
But that's not the point. The point is that we can't handle it. We can. The point is you need to make it a point to show how important it is to your team that this shit get done. It's important enough to you to mandate me when I have my family time.
Right.
Just because I make less money than you and do physical labor doesn't mean my family is any less deserving of my time than your family is of yours.
Absolutely.
So if I'm giving up my time for this fucking place of work, you should too.
Mm-hmm.
Set that example.
Absolutely.
I don't care what your excuse is.
You should be out there.
You can justify it any way you want to, but if your company is in that bad of a situation that you're having to mandate overtime, get your ass in there. Do something.
Mm-hmm.
Walk around, talk to people, it doesn't matter. Do something. And so that is one big one that I've seen drive a wedge in between an office and a shop. Because it's like a physical versus a mental type of labor. It's not viewed as valuable, and people's time is taken for granted.
Yeah, and I guess,
shop floor people, their time is taken for granted. They're just...
Because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Because
they're not considered.
It's cheap. It's not valuable. So it's
right.
Easy to say, well, you're going to work more.
So that's where I see the majority of office and shop divides come from, is the office forgets how important that shop floor is and that they're human beings.
Now, to counter that, I understand if you're in a hole and you have to dig your way out of it. But from a business standpoint, if the cost of paying employees overtime because they're salaried employees, if the cost of paying them overtime to come in and do the extra work causes you to now take a loss overall because you have to pay X amount of dollars extra, how would you make that decision? Would you still make it mandatory for all those people that are higher salary to be in if you were going to take a loss as a company?
You're running the risk of burning out your production and potentially losing customers if you don't meet orders on time.
And I hear you. And
the cost,
the people on the floor are still people. And you still have to look at it from that perspective.
The upfront cost is going to justify the long-term potential loss. Because if you start losing your team, now how much experience are you losing? Because people are fed up with being treated like this.
And I hear you. I'm playing the devil's advocate.
Right, and I'm trying to understand. If that were me in that position, I would, it sucks. We're going to lose some money. But I'm preventing my team from getting burned out and leaving us.
But you could also justify it the other way and say, I would rather lose 5 or 10 employees than lose my ass on this company and not have any money to continue this company.
What happens, though, when 5 or 10 employees start leaving? What if those 5 or 10 employees have 10, 15 years of experience?
I hear you, but are those the first ones going to jump ship?
Typically, because they're the smart ones. And they're going to see that, okay, this is not going the way it's supposed to.
Or have they seen that the company's going to turn around and it's going to actually follow through? Because if you run your company right and they know that it's going to swing back in the other direction and pay off long term, then it shouldn't be a concern.
I guess to add some context, you have to look at the duration for the mandatory overtime.
Right.
If you're looking at a month, you're probably not like look at your demand.
Yeah.
Look at your labor force.
Mm-hmm.
All of that needs to be taken into consideration.
But if you give somebody 6 months of mandatory overtime and you're letting everybody else walk early,
or your office is still only working 40 hours a week, but your production floor has worked 70 hours every other week for the last 6 months, you need to spread the wealth a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there needs to be some context added there, I guess. It can't just be okay, we have 1 week where we're going to have to do some overtime. Everybody's coming. No.
Absolutely.
It's not like that.
Right.
And also to that point, if you have a department that fucked up,
they should be the ones busting their ass.
Right. Don't punish everybody else.
Right.
They need to fix their mistake. You guys can stay late, do whatever needs to be done, or whatever needs to get the job done.
Mm-hmm.
So that needs to be taken into consideration as well. But you have to consider the morale of your workforce.
Absolutely. Now, have you seen...
And I'm sure this whole topic is probably going to be hotly contested because you're going to have all kinds of opinions.
Absolutely. That's why I asked the opposing viewpoint.
Right.
I don't know. I haven't run the business. I have no clue what the justification is, especially a large company.
I've heard it before. I've had it given to me.
I have no clue.
And I still don't. I don't care. Get your ass in here.
Right.
I don't care if we can cover or not. That is not the point. The point is to show support for your team.
Well, and see, I'm the type of person where if you tell me work has to be done, regardless of what I'm getting paid, my job is to do. If you tell me I have to sweep floors, I'm going to sweep the floors. I don't care. You're paying me the same amount every day to show up and do that job. If I have to do something that's less than what I'm getting paid for, why would I complain about it?
Right.
I don't care. I'm there for the company. I'm going to do what you pay me to do.
Well, but see, when you get into these factories, now you've got people that
won't
work in HR.
See, and I have...
that now have to go work on a welder or whatever it is.
This isn't what I do. This isn't what my job was. This is what I came to do.
Yep. Oh, sorry, princess. This is too much. This is too hard for you. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, we're a team here.
Well, and I've dealt with programmers that are the same way. Controls programmers will come in, they'll work on a machine and say, well, this is wired wrong. Okay, grab a screwdriver and fucking fix it.
Right.
You're going to waste how much time waiting for an electrician to come over, explain to them what the problem is, them to fix it, when you could have just handled that in 2 seconds. Well, I don't get in electrical panels anymore. Are you fucking serious right now?
Right.
How much more money are we wasting because you're refusing to do another task?
Right, because you're too good for it.
Yep. Exactly.
That's the attitude I see that drives that divide.
Where do you think that too good mentality comes from?
Ego.
Is it just because I went to college and I got this position?
Sometimes it's not. Sometimes people just climb the ranks and
I don't
that's
have
their
to do that
ego.
anymore.
Yeah, it's their
Mm-hmm.
ego. And because so and so before them did it this way, so and so before them did it this way. Well, they've never had to do that before.
Why the
Guess
hell?
what?
Why
Fucking
should
be
I?
different.
Right.
Change it. We're the ones that have to change the course of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
It has to stop somewhere. It's stopping with us. We are that change.
There was one guy back to the stamping plant. I don't remember what his name was. I remember he used to go to the gym that I worked out at. He worked in the office, friendliest guy ever, and you would see him on the shop floor when he didn't have stuff to do, and he'd be down in the scrap pits, shoveling out the scrap pits, but he was getting exercise in, so he would wear a trash bag over him. But just the fact that he'd come out and do that shitty work, that was awful work.
Yep.
Having to clean that shit. It was just disgusting, nasty. Yep. You'd be gross by the end of the night. And he'd come out and do it. Like, okay, I respect you more than everybody else because you're actually willing to come out on the floor.
Yep.
And do this shit.
Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, that, just those little, just picking up a broom and sweeping or helping take care of little shit shows that you're not too good for them.
Yeah, it helps you appreciate what they do, too. Most factories, you're busting your ass.
Yeah, and once you get out of that, you kind of have it kind of cushy.
Yeah, so make their lives easier. You should be doing everything you can as a servant leader in whatever position you are
to make their life easier.
Exactly. 100%. So yeah, I think the root cause of most shop and office divides is they're treated lesser. They forget who's doing the physical work, who's busting their ass each and every day. Yes, I'm sure management is stressed. They work long hours. I know they do. I get it, but it's still different. And you signed up for all of this by taking that position. Don't cry about it now. Don't whine about it now. You got the job you wanted.
You're the leader. The work has to get done. You better get in the fucking trenches with them.
Exactly. Don't bitch out now and go home to your family because they can't.
And you sure as hell should not be the first one to leave.
Right. Because they can't. And that's your team.
Mm-hmm.
Captain goes down with the ship, right?
Lead by example.
Right. Something else I notice, management or office decides what the problems are and fixes them rather than asking what the actual problems are and trying to help solve them.
That might be something more towards the bigger companies too. Because, I mean, we, as a small company, it's easy to go to individuals and work out the problems. It's easier.
Yeah.
Much easier to do it.
Yep.
I think mainly because the departments are just so much smaller. You can talk to individuals and
probably
not waste a shit ton of time trying to get everybody's viewpoint on it. But
there's just ends up being meetings about, well, this is happening or this machine is doing this or this group of people are saying this or whatever, and they just, well, we think this is the problem, so this is what we're going to do, without actually going and saying, hey, what's going on here? What can we do to help make your life easier?
Actually investigating the problem.
Right. They just push their agenda or their solution onto somebody else, and they're going, really? This is what you came up with?
Do you think...
When sometimes it's treating them more like children, when they just want to be treated like adults, like, There's all kinds of different ways to approach situations, and they decide to just not do it because, well, we're going to tell them what they're going to do. Like, they're adults. Treat them like adults once in a while, and you might get a different reaction.
Is that because it's easier when you have a list of shit to go over in a meeting? It's easier just to quick agreement on that. Let's just cross that off the list and be done with it. That's what we're going to say is going to solve it. Instead of saying, well, this is we need to take time to dive into this more before we address this.
Some of it, yes.
It's easier just wipe it off the table because now we don't have to see that problem anymore.
Some of it. But I also think they firmly believe their solutions are better than what they're going to get from anybody else. It's, again, ego-driven. They're too proud to go ask for somebody's opinion, even though they're the ones dealing with whatever issue every single day.
And chances are the people making the decision have no good understanding of what the hell they're
right. They could be talking about something they haven't looked at in 10 years, and now they're making a change to it.
Right.
Like, no. Go ask the people dealing with it. Go talk to them. Treat them like people. Like, they have valuable thoughts and opinions for a change. You might be surprised what you walk away with. And they're going to be that much more likely to adopt whatever change because they came up with it.
Mm-hmm.
And not be so...
I think you mentioned that before.
Yeah.
When we talked about conflict resolution.
Exactly.
You let them come up with a solution for their conflict or their issue. They're going to want to own that.
Right. But they're big Mr. Swinging Dick over here, so what they say is what's going to go, and they're going to make the decision because they have to listen to me. So this is what we're going to do because I said so, when it might not even make sense. And then, you push that out there, and now they're pissed. They're defensive, and they don't want to do it. They're going to make sure it doesn't work. Or whatever. When, if you would have just gone to them, gotten their solution, shit, you could have had that problem solved even quicker. And probably not had to do anything because they would have done it. They'd be excited about it.
Have you had... I'm sure you've had to push information to your team that they've been pissed about because it wasn't a good solution. How have you handled that when they were upset and said, this isn't going to work? Or have you had to experience that?
Gone both ways.
Because that's out of spite. At that point, you could make this not work out of spite.
I've gone both ways. Well, I guess 3 ways.
We didn't need to hear those details. But...
I have gone with whatever bullshit. Guys, this is what we got to do. We're going to do it to the best of our ability and hope it works. I've said, guys, this is what they want us to do. We're going to do it, but it's not going to work because of this. But we're going to do it anyways. And I've also said, this is what they want us to do. We're going to make them think that's what we're doing, and we're going to do this instead because it's fucking bullshit, and I know it's not going to work, and I'm not going to waste my time.
Yeah, because I could see immediately jumping to just out of spite saying, this isn't going to work. Fuck you guys, we're going to make this burn. But I look at it as...
Or sometimes it's, okay, we're going to show them this isn't going to work.
We'll give it a shot, but when this crashes and burns and you come to me and say, well, why didn't that plan work? Like, well, here's why it didn't work, and we could have been done with this however long ago because you could have just fucking asked me to begin
Those
with.
are the ones, though, where you're doing it and having fun with it because you know it's not going to work. So that's when I go to my team and, all right, guys, this is what they want us to do. We've already told them why this isn't going to work. So let's gather all the data that they want to see that we already know is there. We'll give it to them and we'll be done with this in a week. I know, I'm sorry. I know this sucks. I know it's a waste of your time, but that's what they want us to do. So that's what we're going to give them.
It's a lot easier to not get pissed about it if you can just say,
yep,
fine, we'll give you what you want.
Yep. So when you know you're going to, when you know you're going to win, it's easy to just, yep, okay, whatever. I'm going to get my way. We'll do it their long-ass fucking bullshit way. But ultimately, I'm winning, so we'll just go along with it. But yeah, I have also flat out told my team, yep, that's what they want. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. So just keep your mouth shut. Let me handle it. That one you've got to have a lot of respect amongst your team because it can blow up in your face.
Mm-hmm. And you better be willing to take that bullet for him too.
Well, you better be ready to own up to it if somebody does go tell on you.
Mm-hmm.
Better be prepared for it.
Absolutely.
So how could you prevent a shop office divide?
From what perspective?
From any perspective, just from a leader perspective. As a leader of a team, what can you do to prevent that animosity from building? I'm thinking along the lines of
Just maintaining good and open communication.
Exactly.
As long as you're willing to
Treating
talk
people
to
with
people,
respect. Yeah.
go and talk to everybody regardless of who they are.
Being that servant leader that we want you to be.
Don't just talk to the people that are important and you can benefit from. If you're in a leadership or an office position, don't avoid everybody on the floor. I mean, granted, you probably have stuff to do, but don't avoid everybody.
Right.
Don't look past everybody like you're too good for them. Say hi to everybody. Smile at people.
Go
just
take
be
those
friendly.
walks and just go say hi to. Yeah.
If you open yourself up to being friendly and showing them that you're not better than them, they'll probably have more respect for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember, people are human beings, regardless of what position they have. It's still a human being.
And the other thing that I've learned from being outside of an actual company, coming in from the outside and working with individuals on a shop floor and office staff and everything like that, the most beneficial people that I've built relationships with have been the operators and the people on the shop floor.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately they're the ones that move up over the course of time. So the operators that I was working with 10 years ago are now the people that are quoting jobs for us.
Right.
And I'm going and doing installs with, or I'm working with on a day-to-day basis. So those people are going to be there for the long term. Plus, they're going to be the ones that help you out when you need it.
Yeah.
I can go to any operator at any of the lines that I've worked on and ask them for something, and they all know who I am, and they'll take care of whatever.
Right.
And I mean, coming from a different company, that's easy for me because I don't. People are curious about who the hell I am. We've never seen you before. Who are you? So people come up and talk to me, and I'm just friendly with whoever I can be friendly with. But yeah, office people are weird to talk to sometimes. Like, make it fucking weird to talk to them. And it shouldn't have to be that way. Never should be that way. How about you? What do you think?
Yeah, all the same things.
Just communicate, be friendly.
Keep your ego in check. That's ultimately what it boils down to. When you start to let your ego get in the way, it's going to be a recurring theme. Your ego is going to destroy everything. We've said it before. We'll continue to say it again.
Well, and even if you're afraid to have that conversation or have a conversation with somebody, that's just your ego because you're afraid of rejection or afraid of being told you're wrong.
Right.
Fucking get over it.
Right.
Have the conversation, be done with it.
Back to the time management, procrastination, it's all a fear of something.
You just have to get out in front of it and deal with it.
Yep.
Your ego is the only thing stopping you. It's because you don't want to damage it.
Start to act like you're better than somebody because your ego, there's going to be an animosity that builds. You have to keep that at bay in order to keep that divide from flaring up. And if you're the leader of a shop and an office, like the plant manager, and you're covering all of it, you need to lead by example.
Right.
And that's the only way that everybody is going to see your humility. That's how you can inspire that type of attitude.
Mm-hmm. You've been put into management roles or leadership roles at established companies with established teams.
Mm-hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but would it be okay to assume that most of those teams you've walked into with this animosity sort of established already?
That I have an animosity or the
No, the
team has.
team has an animosity towards office staff
Oh,
or
absolutely.
or you
Most of
because
the
you're a leader
most
or
of the time, if it's a bigger company, there's a divide there.
right. How have how have you approached that in the teams that already have that animosity when you're just coming up into it?
I handle everything. I translate all of it. Every communication I translate and interpret for my team.
So you act as the middleman for them.
Yes. And if I don't like something, like I said, I figure out the best way to explain it to my team so I can keep them on my side. And most times, if I've felt something isn't going to work, I've already tried to fight for it. And my team knows that.
So there's pretty much, it sounds like there's still animosity there. You are just there to
Be the liaison between the
um
two and smooth it all over. And hope that over time that attitude will continue to spread. And if I can get it to spread, and like the same thing with the office staff, they'll bitch about somebody. No, hey, just doing his job. This is why he's doing this. I try to explain certain things certain ways, and same thing back to them. Like they'll make a comment about some team member doing this, that, or the other thing. It's like, hey, like that's what they're supposed to be doing right now. Like whatever. Try to explain those different things to get people to understand, because a lot of times it's that there's no understanding.
have you ever encountered the opposite of going back to your first example of the mandatory overtime? Have you encountered the opposite of so and so they don't get paid enough to be held to the same standards as you do? So we expect all this work out of you, the extra overtime, all of this, but that person doesn't get paid enough to be held to the same standards. Have you ever gotten that?
So have I had somebody tell me I don't make enough?
No. That So I've experienced this several times and had it with one specific coworker in the past where kept making mistakes, was able to leave early, had his own set of rules, and nothing got addressed. And when it would get brought up, of why is he able to leave early? Why do I need to work all this extra overtime? I need to carry all that extra weight. And it's all mainly caused because this person isn't doing their job. And I was told the justification for that was they don't get paid enough to bother pushing them for more. So
No,
the opposite, the flip of your argument of the mandatory overtime, well, they get paid too much or they're too good for that job.
right.
The exact opposite of they don't get paid enough. So don't expect any sort of standards out of them. Because that's
No,
something
because
that's been
everything
very
has a
frustrating
minimum.
for me.
Everything has a well,
If somebody's causing more work for other people down the line, but they don't get paid enough to care, that's been a very tough
I
pill for me
can't
to swallow.
I can't say I've ever heard that, because any place I've ever worked has always been concerned with the bottom line. So if
Somebody's cutting corners and not doing their job, you just cut that bottom line. You cut that. You fire them. Get rid of them.
they're not doing their job, and there's always been like it's this unless they're on a flex schedule because of kids or
Something that was
doctors
worked
or
out. Yep.
unless there's some other understanding, I've never heard that as an excuse or a justification. That's an odd one. Why would any
maybe that's
business
a smaller company thing trying
Yeah.
to take care of individual employees, but I don't know.
why would any business owner not want their money to be
Utilized in the most effective
right?
and efficient way as possible.
So that just
Why would you
sounds like
throw
a
it away at
lazy,
somebody just because they don't
uninformed
get paid
business
enough?
owner. And yeah,
Or management.
right.
That was just
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
I was curious
I
about.
can't I like I said, I can't say any time I haven't had somebody not concerned with being on time, leaving on time, not leaving early, like on time from breaks and lunch, all of that kind of stuff. So to have that kind of an attitude is foreign. No, sorry, I haven't heard that.
No, just curious because that's something I have experienced multiple times, and it has been so frustrating for me. I feel you set a standard, you expect that standard,
Yeah, no,
regardless of
it's-
who you are, regardless of what you get paid. This is what we expect out of you.
Yeah,
You cannot do that. Sorry, you're out of here.
There's the door. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. I thought you were gonna say something like, "Oh, excuse me. I don't get paid enough to do that."
Oh, I've heard that argument
Yeah, I've
all
heard
the
that
time.
plenty, and the answer is, well, if you don't like it, then there's the door.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, granted, if a company is taking advantage of you and you're constantly putting out more,
yes,
your output and what they are benefiting from you getting paid for a lesser job is, and they will not pay you for the work you're doing, you should absolutely leave.
yeah,
Say, I know I do not get paid to do this job.
right.
You want to pay me to do the
Yep.
job, 100% I will do it. But if you're going to expect this out of me continuously, another conversation needs to be had. But
Yeah,
no, that
absolutely.
I've heard that argument.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
That was, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't quite wrap my head around that.
I don't agree with
I
it.
can't even like, I'm still having a hard time understanding like, why you would even say that.
Because you're still getting some sort of output. So is the output that you're getting, is it worth what you're paying? If you're still getting half-ass output, but that half-ass output is better than no output, is it easier to justify paying for that half-ass output? I would say if it's causing extra work down the line,
no.
nope, cut them out. Get rid of them.
Doesn't even make sense.
That's kind of what I thought, but I just wanted another opinion. That's
How can you stop the divide once it's began? Well, you kind of already asked me that, didn't you?
yeah, and it sounds like once it's there, it's there. You can help work with people's individual attitudes, but
once if you go to a team and there's animosity there, you can work with the two parties and try to bridge that gap.
100%.
Bring it up to upper management and say, hey, just letting you know, this is the rumbling on the floor. You guys might want to do something to address that.
And it could just be a matter of simple communication.
Right.
If they've never just broken down that wall, nobody's ever actually had to address that. They're just uncomfort because you don't know each other. Nobody knows who the hell anybody is.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
shop and office divides wrapped up.
From a lot of different perspectives.
I know you weren't.
We were not on the same page, but
Well, you weren't so sure
covered-
about this as a topic either.
well, and
You were kind of wondering about
obviously
it.
we didn't have the same
Yeah, that is true.
idea of where we were coming from with it, but I think it all worked out.
Yeah, it was nice to expand
We covered more because
Yep.
of the different,
opinions. Yep.
the two vastly different arenas we've worked in.
Mm-hmm. No, it was a good one.
Yeah.
Wraps it up.
Covered a lot.
Again, if you guys found something that really piqued your interest, make sure
Resonates
to
with
pass
you.
this episode on to a friend you think would
Friend,
find
family,
it interesting.
coworkers, leaders, whoever.
If you think something in this episode would help somebody, pass it along. With that, we'll wrap up another rustic edition of the J2B podcast. See you guys next week.